At an anime outro-type place, the young woman and MC stood together as evening settled over the city. Admiring the colorful sky, she asked him to look at it, and he quietly agreed. She then turned to him nervously and revealed that she had gone to the doctor earlier that day because she had something important to tell him. Placing her hands over her stomach, she happily revealed that she was pregnant with his child. Shocked and overwhelmed by the news, MC immediately pulled her into an emotional embrace under the evening sky. Years later, those moments had become nothing more than memories, captured in old photographs of the two becoming parents and holding their newborn baby. However, things in their current home were completely different. A strip of clear tape divided the hallway floor, marking an area that MC was strictly forbidden from crossing under his wife's rules. At home, his wife remained busy with her phone while their young daughter quietly ate dinner across the table, with neither of them saying a word. After entering through the doorway, MC had to follow several strict rules, including not eating with them, not greeting anyone, and staying completely silent whenever he opened or closed a door. He was allowed to use the wash basin, but even the toilet was off-limits to him. As MC quietly walked down the hallway with his briefcase, he noticed the smell of grilled fish and realized that his wife and daughter were having dinner without him. He then returned to his isolated bedroom and ate a packaged convenience store meal alone on the edge of his bed while watching a small television. The following morning, MC headed to the train station with the city beginning to wake up around him. Surrounded by other commuters, he checked his phone and prepared himself for another tiring day, reminding himself that earning money for his family was more important than anything else. Suddenly, a strange sensation hit him, causing his eyes to widen as pain and confusion spread through his head. When the incoming train approached the platform, MC grabbed his head as an intense heaviness overwhelmed his mind. He could barely hear the station's automated safety announcements and ended up stumbling backward among the crowd. He nearly fell toward the incoming train, but someone grabbed him just in time and pulled him back. Realizing how close he had come to a serious accident, MC hurriedly apologized while still shaken by what had happened. His savior calmly recognized the danger he had been in and led him toward the station waiting room. There, she looked at his pale face with concern and offered to call a staff member for help. Sitting weakly on the wooden bench, MC insisted that he was fine and tried to dismiss her concern, even though his trembling body showed otherwise. Then, seemingly trying to distract him from his panic, she suddenly asked him a strange riddle involving different styles of Japanese pottery, completely catching MC off guard. While trying to figure out the riddle, the woman quickly explained that making riddles was just an awkward habit she used whenever she wanted to ease the tension. MC realized that her little distraction had worked and helped calm his racing heartbeat, so he quietly acknowledged what she had done. However, when he looked into her eyes, he suddenly felt that he had seen her somewhere before. She then offered to get him some water in case he needed to take medicine, but MC refused and assured her that the pressure in his head was already fading and that he felt better. Feeling comfortable enough to talk to her, MC started explaining the strange situation at home, describing how his wife had turned their household into a confusing set of restrictions that kept him isolated from everyone. The woman, who wore glasses, listened to him before bluntly saying that what he had described sounded like domestic violence. Her words left MC completely speechless, as he had not expected such a direct conclusion. He immediately regretted telling her so much and wished he had kept the situation to himself instead of describing his family's rules in a way that made everything sound so serious. He then remembered an incident in the apartment hallway when he approached his daughter and nervously asked if she knew the name of the actress her mother liked so much. As she stood up to leave, MC noticed how much taller she had become since the last time they had met, but he felt relieved when she suddenly stopped to listen. He apologized for calling her out so suddenly and explained that he had recently met an actress who looked very similar to the one her mother admired. His explanation received nothing but a cold stare from his daughter, whose expression showed clear resentment toward him. She eventually told him that her mother had forbidden her from speaking to him. Her words left MC stunned as he realized just how completely his family had pushed him away. The two stood beside the elevator in painful silence, with neither of them knowing how to close the distance between them. Just as MC remained frozen by what she had said, his daughter timidly called out to him. His thoughts then shifted to another incident at home, where his wife had walked down the hallway and refused to believe that he could ever do what she accused him of. Trying to repair their relationship, MC pointed out how long it had been since they had properly spoken and asked her to sit down so they could talk. Instead, she angrily screamed that he was crossing the line. When she turned to leave, MC grabbed her wrist and begged her to listen to him for just a moment. His wife immediately slapped his hand away and screamed at him never to touch her. As she backed further into the room, MC remained near the doorway and continued calling her name. Suddenly, she threw an object at him, forcing him to raise his arm to protect himself as the object shattered and scattered liquid and sharp pieces around him. Furious, she told him that there was nothing left for them to discuss and warned him never to try talking to their daughter again. Back in the present, MC finally walked out of the tall apartment building into the gloomy rain. Breathing heavily, he suddenly began running through the drizzle as if trying to escape the painful memories that kept haunting him. Eventually, he came to a stop beside a pedestrian barrier, gasping for air with his heart pounding in his chest. MC stares through the heavy rain at Fury Bridge, a place closely connected to his painful past. He remembers coming here after feeling the urge to write another riddle and post his private struggles on social media. As he grips the cold railing, memories of the bridge and everything connected to it return to him. He then remembers Ma's gentle smile, which briefly gives him a sense of comfort, but that feeling quickly disappears as he wonders how he can repair his broken relationship with his family and whether he will have to live with this distance forever. Just then, heavy footsteps and hurried breathing can be heard through the rain as a woman approaches the bridge with an umbrella. After noticing MC standing there alone, she walks over and holds the umbrella above him, asking if he is all right. MC turns around in surprise and immediately recognizes the bespectacled woman from the station. She explains that she saw his latest social media post and realized that something was wrong because he always creates riddles when he keeps his problems to himself. She then shows him her phone and explains that his latest riddle was easy to solve because its answer was the name of the very bridge where he was standing. MC is stunned by how quickly she figured it out, while she points out that the riddle was actually his way of asking for help. Standing beside him under the umbrella, she questions whether a family that only causes him pain is really something he should continue trying to preserve. She then urges him to consider letting go of the relationship that has brought him so much suffering. Meanwhile, at a classroom in another part of town, a new transfer student named Hikari Karashiki stands beside the teacher and introduces himself to his new classmates. Since his transfer had happened suddenly, the teacher is unsure where to seat him because the classroom is already full. After looking around, he notices an empty desk and remembers that Ichika Shinoya is absent that day, so he decides to have Hikari use her seat temporarily. At the same time, at the central library, Ikika stands near the glass entrance while rain pours outside, holding her folded umbrella. She walks into the quiet library and places her leather bag on a study table before getting ready to work. When she takes out her smartphone, she receives a notification informing her that a new riddle has been posted online. Curious, Ikika opens the post from the user Raro and reads the cryptic line about where emotions turn into a wish for peace. Ikika starts wondering whether the phrase in Raro's post contains a hidden message. Looking at the wording more carefully, she begins to suspect that the idea of wishing for peace could have a much darker meaning. She also notices that a location is mentioned at the beginning of the post, making her wonder whether the entire riddle was meant for someone in particular. Meanwhile, after returning from the rain completely soaked, MC finds himself being taken care of by Ikika, who dries his hair with a towel while scolding him for going outside in such weather. MC tries to refuse her help and offers to return her umbrella the next day, but she insists that he stay until the rain stops. Before leaving, MC reaches out and fixes the collar around her neck, assuring her that the rain will eventually stop. He thanks her for helping him and explains that his house is nearby before turning around and leaving without the umbrella. His sudden departure makes Ikika panic, and she immediately calls after him, telling him that he should never give up on his life. She seriously urges him to value himself and reminds him that he can trust her. MC finally manages to interrupt her and explains that she has completely misunderstood the situation. He clarifies that he never intended to harm himself and had only gone to the bridge because he needed some time alone to clear his head. Ikika becomes embarrassed and admits that his pale expression at the station and his appearance at the bridge had made her worry that something terrible had happened. She apologizes for jumping to conclusions and then shows him her phone, explaining that his latest riddle was what caused the misunderstanding. The post contains a cryptic message about finding peace where emotions connect, and Ikika explains that she interpreted the clue as a reference to Fury Bridge. The final part of the riddle had also sounded much more alarming than MC intended. Once he understands how she interpreted his words, MC realizes why she became so worried and explains that it was only supposed to be a simple puzzle. Ikika then asks whether the riddle had actually been his way of asking for help. Looking at her sincere expression, MC is surprised to realize that she had not only solved his riddle, but had also understood that something was troubling him and rushed to find him. He thanks her for her sharp intuition, but privately admits that her concern was understandable because he had been going through a very difficult time when he stood at the bridge. MC then bows deeply and thanks her again, explaining that making riddles was simply a hobby that gave him a brief escape from reality, and assuring her that he was feeling better now. As Ikika smiles gently, MC thinks about how remarkable her actions were. Thousands of people had seen his post, yet she was the only one who figured out where he was and actually came looking for him. She then starts guiding MC back into her apartment, insisting that she help him recover from the rain. MC nervously tells Ikika that she doesn't need to do so much for him, but she ignores his hesitation and insists on letting him dry off and getting him a fresh shirt. With a playful smile, she promises to return soon and says that she is only doing this to repay him for helping her earlier. After she leaves, MC stands alone in the entryway, surprised by how quickly she disappeared. Looking around, he notices several cardboard boxes stacked along the hallway and realizes that she must have moved in recently. Curious about her, MC checks her social media profile and is shocked to see that she has a huge number of followers. Comparing it to his own small following, he wonders why someone so popular would even follow him, so he scrolls through her profile. He is immediately caught off guard when he comes across glamorous photos of her in swimwear, revealing a completely different side of her online life. Embarrassed, MC quickly closes his phone and wonders why someone like her would take an interest in him. Alone in the apartment, he starts considering whether he should leave before she returns, especially since the rain outside is already beginning to stop, but he knows disappearing without saying anything would be rude. At the same time, he can't stop thinking about how different her online persona is from the quiet and kind woman he has gotten to know. Soon, footsteps can be heard outside as Ikika returns through the wet corridor. When the front door opens, MC sees her standing there with a small shopping bag and immediately snaps back to reality. Relieved that he had stayed, Ikika gives him a fresh shirt and tells him to use the washroom to change. MC awkwardly thanks her for everything, but she quickly brushes aside his concerns. She then takes out some freshly steamed buns she bought on the way back and asks him to sit with her and eat. Holding out a warm bun for him, she encourages him to have some. MC can't help comparing this warm, homely side of Ikika with the completely different image he saw on her social media, but decides to eat first and head home afterward. While holding the bun, he asks whether she bought it from a nearby convenience store. Ikika notices his hesitation and worries that he doesn't like it, so MC quickly explains that he is simply used to eating convenience store meals almost every day. She becomes curious about his usual routine, and MC eventually admits that he has been relying on those lonely meals for a long time. The simple act of sharing food with someone makes him realize just how unfamiliar this kind of warmth has become to him. MC listens as Sawako explains that food feels better when it is shared with people you care about, and says that everyone deserves a place where they can relax without worrying about anything. A moment later, her phone rings, and she checks the screen before turning her attention back to MC. She then offers to become a safe place where he can forget his troubles and feel at peace for a while. Before MC can respond, his phone suddenly rings, leaving him shocked as he looks at the screen. Sawako notices his reaction and watches with concern as he answers the call and gives a nervous greeting. It turns out to be his wife, who immediately apologizes for what happened earlier. She explains that she had been under tremendous stress because of their daughter, Achika, and that it caused her to lose control. MC admits that he had also been frightened and apologizes for how he reacted during their argument. His wife then reveals the real reason behind everything, explaining that Achika has been secretly skipping school every day while pretending to leave home normally each morning. This finally makes MC understand why his wife had been so upset with him. Sitting beside Sawako, he looks back at how distant he had been toward Achika and realizes that he had completely failed to notice what his daughter was going through. The truth leaves him overwhelmed with guilt as he realizes that he had ignored his own daughter's problems for so long. Sawako tries to comfort him, explaining that teenagers can go through difficult and rebellious periods and telling him not to blame himself too much. After listening to her, MC steps into the quiet hallway and pauses near the door, still thinking about everything he has learned. As he prepares to leave, Sawako calls out to him, reminding him through her earlier advice that simply pretending everything is fine won't solve anything. MC realizes that he still needs to find a real solution to his complicated family situation. Meanwhile, back at school, the students continue chatting in the classroom while discussing how rarely Achika attends. Hikari remains seated at the desk that belongs to her until she finally arrives and notices the unfamiliar boy sitting in her place. She immediately turns around to leave, but Hikari is surprised and quickly gets up to call after her. Achika continues toward the hallway without stopping, so Hikari follows her while watching her head toward the staircase. He catches up with her on the landing and asks why she is running away from him, but she simply apologizes and says that she mistakenly thought he was sitting in someone else's seat. Achika explains that she doesn't really care about the seat and had only come back to get an old dictionary from her locker, so she asks Hikari to bring it to her. He quickly runs through the school and finds Achika sitting alone on the stairway, completely focused on her book. After reaching her, Hikari hands over the old Japanese dictionary, and she thanks him. When she asks why he is still there despite class being about to start, he admits that he became curious about what she intended to do with the dictionary. As Achika searches through its pages, she explains that she has been trying to solve a mystery since yesterday and thought the dictionary might contain a clue, but she hasn't found anything yet. Curious about the riddle, Hikari sits beside her and asks to see it. After looking at the wording, he suggests that the phrase about where emotions connect might actually describe a real location instead of an abstract idea. He then suddenly connects the clue to a place called Fury, believing it could be somewhere associated with finding inner peace. Achika silently stares at him, making Hikari realize that he may have said too much. He quickly apologizes and asks whether a place with that name even exists, only for Achika to calmly confirm that it does. Later, when the final bell rings, Hikari's classmates invite him to join them in checking out different clubs, but he turns them down because he has something important to do. He leaves the classroom and heads outside to look for Achika. Suddenly, she grabs his sleeve and pulls him away, startling several black cats that run out from the nearby bushes. She leads him to Fury Bridge, a large suspension bridge stretching across the river. Standing together by the railing, Hikari comments on how refreshing the breeze feels after the heavy rain from the previous day, while they look over the city during sunset. After that, an awkward silence settles between them as he looks toward Achika. Achika continues staring into the distance and admits that she had hoped coming to the bridge would help her find some kind of clue or answer, but now feels the trip was pointless. Hikari realizes that he never properly introduced himself, so he tells her his name is Hikari Karashiki and mentions that he only moved to the area yesterday. He then asks why she rarely comes to school. Hikari quickly suggests that they become friends and says school would be more fun if they went together, but Ichika responds with an unimpressed look. She explains that her absences aren't because she wants to rebel or cause trouble, but because of the problems at home. She then admits that all she wants is for her parents to treat each other kindly again, even though she feels powerless to fix their relationship. Hikari tells her that he understands what it is like to live in a broken family and shares his own past, explaining that he grew up without a father and that his mother's former partner caused them so much trouble that they eventually had to move away. Ichika quietly listens to his story before revealing that she once discovered an online account using her father's name that regularly posted riddles. She admits that part of her hopes the person behind the account is actually her father. As they look over the water, Ichika comments on how beautiful the sunset is and takes out her phone to photograph it. Meanwhile, at a busy train station, MC notices a new notification on his phone from a user named Pete Wyo. The post contains a picture of the sunset at Fury Bridge, along with a message thanking him for the riddle. MC is surprised that someone actually went to the bridge after solving his riddle and remembers how important that place is to him. It was where he once stood with Sawako and finally found a sense of peace while accepting his role as a father. After boarding the train, MC sits quietly among the other passengers and continues thinking about everything. A sudden movement shakes the carriage, forcing him to grab his bag as the train sways. As he steadies himself, a shocking realization suddenly hits him, leaving him frozen in disbelief. At the same time, a woman finally realizes the real reason behind MC's long-standing resentment toward her. As the truth becomes clear to her, MC stands on a brightly lit street at night, staring anxiously at his vibrating phone. Meanwhile, somewhere across the city, two girls sleep peacefully inside a quiet apartment. The quiet night is suddenly interrupted by a phone buzzing on the floor, waking Ikika from her sleep. She turns toward the sound and notices her roommate already sitting upright in bed. Meanwhile, MC answers the call and hears an urgent voice demanding to speak with him and finally clear up their years of misunderstanding. Later that night, Sawako receives an unexpected call and answers despite the late hour. The caller apologizes for contacting her so late, explaining that this was the only opportunity to speak with her directly, but Sawako is annoyed at being disturbed and points out that it is already late and Ikika is sleeping nearby. She tells him that they should discuss everything in the morning, but he insists on meeting her that night so they can finally settle their problems face to face. After some hesitation, Sawako agrees to meet him at a nearby family restaurant and gets out of bed to prepare. Meanwhile, Ikika has been quietly listening to the entire conversation from her bed. She contacts Hikari and tells him that her mother is secretly going out to meet her father, admitting that the situation makes her uneasy. Hikari simply suggests that she follow them if she wants to know what is happening, so Ikika quickly arranges to meet him. Across town, Sawako walks through the quiet streets toward the restaurant wearing a dark beanie and heavy jacket. When she reaches the entrance, she notices her mother entering through the glass doors. Just then, Hikari calls out to her and runs over. He happily thanks her for letting him join the nighttime stakeout and follows her inside. After asking the staff for a table for two, they sit down and watch Sawako and the mysterious man talking at a nearby booth. Since they are too far away to hear anything, Hikari suggests moving closer, but Ikika refuses because she is afraid her parents might recognize her. From their table, Ikika watches her parents sitting together and realizes how unusual it is to see them actually talking. She wonders whether this meeting could finally lead to something positive or make things even worse. Ikika explains that her father has always kept to himself and rarely shows interest in other people, which has only made her mother's resentment toward him stronger. She admits that she has recently started understanding her father's personality better and feels that she inherited his preference for being alone, making her very different from her mother. Despite that, she quietly admits that she wants to speak with her father more, even though she knows her mother wouldn't approve. Hikari points out that she clearly cares deeply about both of her parents, making Ikika embarrassed as she immediately denies it. Wanting to help her, Hikari comes up with a plan to act like an ordinary customer and sit near her parents so they can hear the conversation. He leaves Ikika at their original table and confidently walks toward the booth. Taking the seat directly behind her father, Hikari pretends to be a regular customer while listening carefully to their conversation. However, what he hears quickly takes a disturbing turn when Ikika's father reveals that after her mother chose the name Ikika, his first reaction had been that they should not have the baby. Hearing this, Ikika is left completely stunned by the revelation about how her father felt about her from the beginning. Unable to bear any more of the conversation, her mother declares that there is no reason for them to continue talking and gets up to leave. When Ikika realizes her mother is leaving, she panics because she needs to get home before anyone notices she is missing. As she rushes past Hikari, she asks him to tell her everything he heard later and quickly disappears into the night. Hikari watches her leave while struggling with the shocking things he has just heard. After leaving the restaurant, he waits outside for Ikika's father to come out. His anger only grows as he stands in the cold, while Hikari continues ignoring the calls from his mother. And when the man finally appears, Hikari confronts him directly and tells him that he doesn't deserve to call himself Ikika's father. The man is completely caught off guard by the sudden confrontation. Meanwhile, his mother becomes increasingly frustrated after seeing that he still hasn't returned home. Unable to wait any longer, she goes outside and searches through the neighborhood for her son. Eventually, she reaches a brightly lit building and finds him confronting a man at the entrance. Hikari angrily demands to know how the man could treat Ikika so cruelly when she cares so much about him. He then argues that a father is supposed to love his child unconditionally, pointing out that while a man can have several children, a child only gets one father. He condemns the man for rejecting Ikika before she had even been born and declares that someone who abandons his responsibility as a father deserves to be taught a lesson. Hikari then prepares to hit him, but just before he can, his mother rushes between them and shields the man. Everyone is confused until she recognizes him as Ritaro, leaving Hikari surprised that the two already know each other.